passing by the matchmaking event at the park, I was shocked to see my boss's profile posted on the wall. I excitedly pushed my way through the crowd, snapped a picture, and sent it to him, unable to resist a little gloating. Well, boss. Looking for a date? He just circled a corner of the photo and replied, so are you. When did my mom do this? This is absolutely mortifying. Nancy Reed, 27, 5'3", beautiful, kind, and a great cook. Is that supposed to be me? This is blatant false advertising. I stared at my own resume, the corner of my mouth twitching. I quickly ripped the paper off the wall, crumpled it into a ball, and threw it in the trash. I have to have a serious talk with my mom when I get home. It's one thing to play matchmaker for me, but to use such an ugly photo is just criminal. Just then, I saw a new text from James Hayes. Tear mine down for me, thanks. I stood to the side, glanced at his picture again, and bit my lip to keep from laughing as I typed back, you know, boss, you actually look pretty handsome up on that wall. He suddenly called me, and I jumped, my hands shaking as I answered. Before I could say a word, a low voice came through the phone. Nancy Reed, if I remember correctly, you've been late twice this month. He knew about that. I always make sure to get in before he does. Low blow. Despicable. He's actually threatening me. Do I look like the kind of person with no backbone? Oh, right. I am. Who am I to argue with money? For the sake of my precious perfect attendance bonus, I immediately changed my tune and started to apologize, but my brain glitched. Oh, boss, on second thought, you look kind of awful up on that wall. I'll take it down right now. The second the words were out, I realized what I'd said and frantically tried to backtrack. No, I mean you look even better in person. I'm taking it down for you right now. I heard him chuckle. All right, I get it. Then he hung up. I let out a breath and walked over to James's profile. I grabbed a corner of the paper and was about to rip it down when a voice stopped me. Sweetie, have you taken a liking to this one? An older woman next to me smiled warmly. He's a great young man. Successful at such a young age, and good to his parents. I've seen a lot of families showing interest in him. I paused. A lot of families? Looks like the boss is a hot commodity. So how is he still single? Guess things don't pan out after the first meeting. The woman was still talking. I know his mother. Why don't I put you two in touch? With that, she pulled her phone out of her pocket to make a call. I'll just give his mom a ring. She lives nearby, so she can be here in a minute. I panicked. Since when does taking down a flyer involve meeting the parents? This isn't part of my job description. I just wanted to tear down a piece of paper and protect my bonus. I immediately grabbed the woman's hand to stop her. She looked at me, confused. I swallowed hard, my eyes blinking rapidly. We were both frozen in place. I've got it. An idea flashed in my mind, and I found an excuse. Ma'am, that's not necessary. I'm his girlfriend. I just happened to see this and wanted to take it down for him. Girlfriend? The woman paused, frowning in thought. I didn't hear anything about young James dating someone. Crap. I wanted to cover my face. Just let me go. My mind raced, and I suddenly put on a wounded expression, tears welling up in my eyes. Ma'am, James and we broke up. That's probably why he hasn't had a chance to tell his mother yet. A tear rolled down my cheek, and my voice grew more pitiful, a mess of sniffles and sobs. It's just, I still love him. I can't bear to see him with another girl, so I wanted to tear this down. Oh, ma'am, I'm so miserable. I really love him. The more I acted, the more I got into character, crying my heart out. The woman was flustered. She quickly pulled a tissue from her bag, handed it to me, and patted my back comfortingly. There, child. It's okay. Everything will pass. Wow, not bad. I'm a pretty good actress. After successfully fooling the woman, I made an excuse and managed to escape. Once I saw she was gone, I circled back, tore my boss's profile off the wall for good, and stuffed it in my bag. Time to put this somewhere safe. This is my 500 perfect attendance bonus we're talking about. My mom didn't get back to me until the next morning when I was at work. You're 27 years old. If you're not worried, I'm worried for you. If you don't bring a son-in-law home by the time you're 28, don't even bother coming back to this house. I sighed and put my phone down helplessly. I was used to my mom's dramatic lectures. But, why did the audio quality sound a little different this time? Wait. A horrible feeling washed over me. I looked up and saw the entire office staring at me. They were all laughing. My entire body went rigid. I'm so dead. My headphones weren't connected to Bluetooth. I dropped my head into my hands, digging my fingers into my hair, wishing I could dig a hole with my toes and crawl into it. Just then, Mia, who sat next to me, gently poked me in the side with her elbow. I looked up, my face burning with embarrassment. She gestured for me to look behind me. A sudden chill went down my spine. I took a deep breath and turned around. And there was James Hayes, arms crossed, watching me with a slight smile that made my whole body go numb. A killer smile. The boss rarely smiled, but when he did, it meant someone was in for it. That was the conclusion our team had reached after years of working at the company. Great. First, my attendance bonus was on the line, and now I'd be labeled a slacker. I could practically see a pile of cash sprouting wings and flying away from me. Nancy Reed, my office. Now. His smile vanished. He tapped my desk expressionlessly and turned toward his office. I'm so screwed, I was on the verge of tears. Mia patted my shoulder sympathetically and sighed. Good luck. Just hang in there. I'm still a young, ambitious 27-year-old, a flower of this great nation. Why do I have to suffer my mother's matchmaking schemes and my boss's tyranny? I stood outside his office door, trying to game plan what to do. After a deep breath, I knocked tentatively, pushed the door open, and immediately gave a deep bow. Boss, I promise it won't happen again. Please forgive me. An apology that's sincere had to work, right? He couldn't possibly give me a hard time after that. How could I dare? James put down his pen and leaned back in his chair, looking amused. It is I who have wronged you. I was confused. What was going on? I only learned last night that I apparently have an ex-girlfriend. I had no idea I was so heartless, to have so easily abandoned someone who loved me so deeply. My mom tore into me last night. She said I have to win you back, no matter what, and that I absolutely must bring you home for her to meet over the Memorial Day weekend. James stood up, arching an eyebrow at me. Nancy Reed, how do you plan on getting out of this hole you've dug? I'm done for. Yesterday's performance was a little too convincing. I forced a pained smile and asked tentatively, how about, we say I cheated on you? That I was just pretending to love you for your money. No, he vetoed immediately. Try again. I can't think of anything else. I wandered over to the sofa, plopped down, and poured myself a glass of water, still trying to persuade him. Come on, boss, it's not like you're really getting cheated on. It's just a little white lie, what's the big deal? The moment I said it, I saw two words written all over his face. No. Way. And it was clearly non-negotiable. I felt a wave of helplessness, my voice cracking with desperation. Boss, I'm really out of ideas. It's not like I can just pretend to be your girlfriend and go home with you, right? I mean, I'm fine with it, but I'm afraid you wouldn't be. Before I could finish, 3 words popped out of my boss's mouth. I'm okay with it. As he spoke, the water I'd just sipped sprayed out of my mouth. It went down the wrong pipe, and I started coughing uncontrollably. Good plan. He pulled a few tissues out and handed them to me. Then it settled. You'll come with me to my parents' place for the long weekend. I was stunned. He just agreed. I feel like we reached that agreement a little too easily. Suddenly, I regretted speaking without thinking. I won't do anything to you, he said, apparently thinking I was afraid of him. I'd been at James's company for several years and had a good sense of the kind of person he was. I trusted he wouldn't try anything. But I had just thrown the idea out there, assuming it would be rejected. Besides, I didn't have time that weekend. I'd already made plans with my bestie, Sophia, to go to Miami for Memorial Day. She seemed really excited about it, and it wouldn't be right to cancel on her. On one hand, my boss. On the other, my best friend. I had no choice but to ask James to give me some time to think about it. But when I video chatted with my best friend that night, her answer was immediate. You are absolutely going to his family's place with James for Memorial Day. We can reschedule. This is too good of an opportunity to pass up. I was surprised by how quickly she agreed. What opportunity? Are you dense? Sophia scolded me, exasperated. He's James Hayes. He's tall, handsome, and rich. You have to go for it. I thought she had a point. So, I went for it. Of course, that was because I realized this could be a great way to make some extra cash. I texted him, "Boss, can this count as holiday overtime with triple pay?" "James, it can." "Okay, I'm in." For that kind of money, I agreed on the spot. James had already prepared the gifts for his mother. Since she lived in Milwaukee, James told me to pack an overnight bag. After I finished my makeup, James pulled up to my door. "Will this be okay for meeting your mom?" I asked, twirling in front of him in a light blue dress and batting my eyes as I waited for his response. I saw his gaze flicker away for a second before he turned his head and gave a soft ahem. The boss is acting a little weird today. I didn't think much of it. James took my luggage, opened the passenger door for me, and I got in. On the way there, I was a nervous wreck, mentally rehearsing what I should do when we got to his house. The more I thought about it, the faster my heart beat. Nervous? James seemed to sense my anxiety. He comforted me as he turned the steering wheel. "Relax. It's not like you're meeting your real mother-in-law. Besides, my mom is really easy to talk to." My nerves got the best of me, and I blurted out, "What if she does end up being my real mother-in-law?" I immediately clapped my hand over my mouth. Crap, I'd said the quiet part out loud. No. Afraid he'd get the wrong idea, I rushed to explain. "That's not what I meant. Boss, I have absolutely no ulterior motives toward you." James just laughed. "I know." The boss laughed. He seemed to enjoy it when I got flustered. When we pulled into their driveway, his mother was already at the door to greet us. James's mom was truly wonderful. I didn't feel the least bit awkward the entire day. I suddenly had the urge to have her as my actual mother-in-law. With a mother-in-law like her, we'd definitely get along. To maintain my elegant image, I didn't dare eat too much at dinner. "Nancy, are you full already?" Mrs. Hayes was surprised to see me put down my chopsticks so soon. I nodded. "Eat more," she urged. "You're too thin." Even though the food was delicious, I resisted. I was afraid that if I let my guard down for a second, my true, ravenous appetite would be exposed. But later that night, as I tried to sleep, my stomach was growling non-stop. I tossed and turned, on the verge of a breakdown. Thinking about the fragrant dishes from dinner, I shed a tear of regret. Why didn't I just eat more? Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I got up to open it and was surprised to see the man standing there. "Boss? Hungry?" He stood in the doorway in a white shirt, the warm yellow light casting shadows across his body. He was looking down slightly, which made his profile seem incredibly soft. I found myself staring at him, a little mesmerized. James asked again. I snapped back to reality. I couldn't admit I was hungry. That would mean all my suffering at dinner was for nothing. I was about to say no, but my stomach answered for me. Growl. In the quiet hallway, the sound from my stomach was deafeningly loud. My face flushed with embarrassment, and I quickly pressed a hand to my traitorous belly. It only growled louder. I wished the floor would just open up and swallow me. James let out a soft laugh, his chest vibrating with the sound. All right, I'll make you some noodles. Really? At the mention of a midnight snack, I shamelessly swallowed hard and trotted after him. I leaned against the doorframe, watching the boss chop vegetables. My boss, personally making me a midnight snack. If I told the team about this, they would die of envy. As I thought about it, an unstoppable smile spread across my face. He finished slicing the meat and was about to pour oil into the pan when he seemed to remember something. He turned to me and said, "Could you grab the apron for me?" I nodded eagerly and took the apron down. Thinking I hadn't helped at all, the words "let me tie it for you" slipped out. The suggestion hung in the air, a little intimate. We both froze for a second before he replied, "Okay." I stood on my tiptoes, and he bent down. Just as I got the loop around his neck, he was so tall, I lost my footing and stumbled forward, throwing my arms around his neck to catch myself. He instinctively wrapped his arms around my waist to steady me. The air went completely still. His warm breath tickled my neck, sending a shiver through me, like a tiny electric current. I could feel his body tense up. When I came to my senses, I immediately let go and took a few steps back, hiding my hands behind my back and looking down, unable to meet his eyes. James coughed twice to cover the awkwardness and turned back to his work. "Why don't you wait in the living room? It'll be ready soon." "Wait," I said in a low voice, pointing to the ties behind him. "Let me tie the apron for you first." I reached out, found the 2 strings, brought them around his back, and gently pulled them into a bow. Braised noodles with tomato and a fried egg. Just the smell made my stomach ache with hunger. I finished the noodles in no time, rubbing my belly with an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. "Could you stay a couple more days?" James broke the silence. His dark eyes met mine, his voice exceptionally gentle. "My mom really likes you. She'd like to spend a little more time with you." Looking into his eyes, I felt myself being drawn in, my heart starting to race. I tried my best to look calm. I propped my chin on my hand, my gaze fixed on the empty noodle bowl, and grinned playfully. "So, is this a bribe?" He said, a smile playing on his lips. "It's hard to say no to someone who just fed you, isn't it?" I pretended to think for a moment, tapping my cheek with my finger. "Well, seeing as it tasted pretty good, I guess I can stay for 2 more days." Suddenly remembering something, I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. "Boss," I asked with interest, "if your mom gets really attached to me, your future girlfriend is going to have a hard time." "She won't," James replied. "So certain?" I raised an eyebrow. "A girl who's such a hit with the parents is a rare find, you know. Especially one who's also so kind, beautiful, and generous." James didn't say anything. He just smiled again. The next morning, James and his mom were going to the supermarket for groceries and other necessities. After a long battle with my bed, I finally got up. I'd gone to sleep so late that when I washed my face, the dark circles under my eyes were especially noticeable. When James saw that I had changed and looked ready to go out, he seemed surprised. "You're not going to sleep in a little more?" "Nah," I shook my head. "I'll go with you guys." His mom seemed to notice my dark circles. "Did you not sleep well last night?" she asked with concern. "Go back and get some more rest. James and I can go by ourselves." Then she turned and scolded James, "You young people need to have some self-control. Look how worn out you've made poor Nancy." "James, me?" It took me a second to understand what she was implying, and my cheeks instantly went hot. "No, that's not it, Mrs. Hayes," I rushed to explain. "I got hungry last night, and James made me some noodles, so we both just stayed up late." That cleared up the misunderstanding. Mrs. Hayes went off to buy some other things, leaving James and me to wander the aisles with the shopping cart. I started picking out fruit in the produce section and sent James to see what we could get for lunch. I had just put a few apples in a bag when I looked up and saw a high school couple, clearly in the throes of new love, standing diagonally from me, wrapped in each other's arms and kissing. Once, twice, 3 times. I just stood there, stunned. Seeing them so intimate, I couldn't help but cringe. This was just too much. When the young couple noticed me watching, they weren't flustered or ashamed at all. Instead, the girl calmly pulled away, looked at me, and gave me a slight, challenging arch of her eyebrow, her chin held high. It was like she was flaunting the fact that she had a boyfriend and I didn't. This kid was actually provoking me. Oh, it's on. Fuming, I grabbed my bag of apples and marched over to James, hooking my arm through his, pressing close, and cooing in a syrupy voice, "Honey, what should we have for lunch?" James played along perfectly, ruffling my hair. His voice was just loud enough. "Whatever you want. What are you in the mood for?" I shot a look at the high school girl, lifting my chin with an air of pure triumph. "My boyfriend is tall, handsome, and rich. What do you have?" Sure enough, the color drained from her face. She shoved her boyfriend's arm away and stormed off in a huff. Her boyfriend, completely clueless, scrambled to chase after her. Seeing my smug smile, James couldn't help but grin. "What are you doing, picking a fight with a kid?" I pouted. "She started it." "Nancy?" A sudden voice called my name. I turned around instinctively and was met with a very familiar face. "Mom?" I jumped, startled. What are the odds? "Hello, ma'am." Before I could even process it, James was already greeting my mom politely. My mom was also stunned for a moment. She looked at me, then up at James, her eyes scanning him for a long moment before they lit up. "You little rascal," she asked excitedly, "since when were you dating someone and hiding it from me?" I realized my arm was still linked with James's and quickly let go. "Mom," I said, afraid she'd get the wrong idea. I tried to explain, "Mom, we're not. Not in the kind of relationship you think we are." But before I could finish, James's mom walked over. The words I was about to say got stuck in my throat. Mrs. Hayes looked a little surprised to see my mom, so I quickly made the introduction. "Mrs. Hayes, this is my mother." Then, facing my mom's utterly confused expression, I braced myself and continued, "Mom, this is James Hayes, my boyfriend. And this is James's mother." Those 2 words, my boyfriend, came out with very little confidence. My mom and Mrs. Hayes hit it off immediately. The 4 of us sat in a private room at a restaurant, and it was just the 2 of them talking non-stop, getting along like old friends. 8 out of every 10 sentences were about me and James. I shot James a helpless look, but to my surprise, he was listening intently. As I watched them, I started to zone out. It wasn't until my mom called my name several times that I jolted back to reality and looked at her blankly. "Honestly, child," my mom chided. "Why are you daydreaming?" I then realized they had moved on to discussing wedding arrangements for us. From randomly bumping into my mom to the 2 of them planning our wedding, everything had happened so fast and so coincidentally that I was terrified James would think I had planned it all. All just to marry him. I could only offer an awkward smile and quickly change the subject. Summer rains are always heavy and sudden. Maybe it was the thunder, or maybe I was still having trouble sleeping in a strange bed, but I tossed and turned that night, wide awake again. I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand and sent James a text. "Are you asleep?" He replied, "No. Can't sleep?" I didn't answer. Instead, I got out of bed, walked to his door, and knocked. Then I opened it and saw him still at his computer, working. When James turned around, I suddenly felt a little lost. I slowly sat on the edge of his bed, my body stiff. About what my mom said today, don't take it seriously. I'll clear things up with her as soon as I get home." I won't cause you any trouble." But James just smiled. He got up, walked over to me, and placed his hands on the bed on either side of me, leaning in close as I looked up. "Clear what up?" He was so close. I instinctively leaned back, holding my breath, my eyes wide. It took me a moment to explain. Just that we're not really in a relationship. Boss, I would never dream of taking advantage of you. To my surprise, James's smile grew wider. He pulled a chair over and sat down in front of me. "Nancy Reed, I think being in a relationship wouldn't be so bad." "What?" I was sure I'd misheard him. I stared at him, blinking. My heart began to pound violently in my chest. Did I hear that right? The boss wants me to be his girlfriend. You don't have to give me an answer right away. James stood up and walked to the door, pausing in the doorway. "Let me know when you've thought about it." This is crazy. The world has definitely gone crazy. After James left, I bolted back to my room and dove under the covers. The room was so quiet I could only hear my own heartbeat. It still felt like a dream. I slapped my own face, hard. A sharp sting followed. Oh my God. I think it's real. My boss actually asked me to be his girlfriend. When I woke up in the morning, I sneezed 5 times in a row. I realized that yesterday's downpour had caused the temperature to plummet from 79 degrees to 64. James, knowing I hadn't brought any other clothes, just handed me one of his own sweatshirts to wear. He also made me a pot of porridge. Wearing a sweatshirt belonging to a guy who's nearly 6'3" made me feel tiny. So when James saw me, he couldn't suppress the smile on his face. "Let's go out and buy you some clothes later. This one doesn't quite fit." I puffed out my cheeks and glared at him. "What's so funny? Don't I look cute?" When James led me to the front of a Chanel boutique, my legs went weak. I looked up at the familiar name and swallowed hard. The boss had lost his mind. Did he really think I could afford clothes from here? For a working girl like me, even affordable luxury was a splurge. I was about to make a run for it when James grabbed my wrist. He seemed to know what I was thinking. "You pick out the clothes. I'll pay." He was being too generous. But I couldn't just accept a handout. I tried to refuse, but after a bit of back and forth, I couldn't win the argument against James and finally gave in. As a gesture of goodwill, I was prepared to bite the bullet and buy him something expensive in return, but he refused. He couldn't get me to back down, though, so he finally just grabbed a random tie and said, "Just get me this, then." I glanced at the price tag. $200. A strange warmth spread through my chest. It wasn't until we were having lunch together that I opened my phone and saw that the No Bosses Allowed company group chat had exploded. "Ben, guys, breaking news. Mia. Oh my God, the boss has a girlfriend? Alex, is there a front view? Get a pic of her face." Ben, no, I couldn't see her face clearly. I was in a hurry, so I just snapped one picture. My heart started to pound, terrified they'd recognize me. The timing was just too perfect. How was he also in Milwaukee? It's a big city, how did we run into each other? My hand trembled as I clicked on the photo. It only showed my back in James's profile. We were standing very close, and from that angle, it looked incredibly intimate. My face wasn't in it. I let out a sigh of relief. Thank God Ben didn't get a picture of my face. Otherwise, I'd be finished. But the next message made my heart, which had just settled, leap back into my throat. Mia, but why does that silhouette look a little familiar? Alex, think hard. Maybe you've seen her somewhere. I rested my forehead in my hand, rubbing my temples. Please don't recognize me, I muttered under my breath. What's wrong? James asked. I handed him my phone, my voice tinged with exasperation. Ben just took a picture of us. James took the phone but then raised an eyebrow. When is the boss gonna get a girlfriend? Crap. I forgot to change the group chat name before showing him. James's lips curved into a smile. Looks like you all are very interested in my private life. Oh no, I accidentally let the boss see the group chat. I've betrayed the team. James scrolled through the chat history, the smile on his face growing wider. He even stroked his chin, looking thoroughly entertained. I was baffled. Was this really that interesting? Why was he so happy? Curiosity got the better of me, and I moved to his side. When I saw the chat window, I sucked in a sharp breath. Mia, where's Nancy Reed? She's usually the first one to gossip about the boss. Where is she? Mia, Nancy Reed, you've been summoned. I'm so done for. They found me out. I slapped my forehead in misery, carefully watching James's expression while silently praying they would just drop it. But the next second, my phone rang. It was Sophia. She was my savior. Perfect timing. I quickly answered the phone, only to be met with the sound of sobbing. My heart clenched. Soph, what's wrong? All men are bastards. Sophia's voice was hoarse, like she'd been crying for a long time. I'm never falling in love again. She trailed off into another round of loud sobs. Learning that Sophia was still at home, I was worried something might happen to her. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair and hurriedly said to James, "Boss, something urgent came up. I have to go back to Chicago right away. Could you bring my luggage back with you when you come?" To my surprise, James immediately strode over and grabbed my wrist. "I'll take you. Wait for me to pay." By the time I got to Sophia's apartment, it was already getting dark. I opened the door to darkness and the overwhelming smell of alcohol. I'd barely taken 2 steps before I almost tripped on a beer can. I fumbled for the light switch, and when I turned it on, I saw several beer cans scattered all over the floor. I picked them up one by one and went into the living room. Sophia was slumped on the floor, her elbows on the glass coffee table, her hair a mess, and tear tracks staining her face. Seeing her made my own heart ache. "Don't sit on the floor," I said, trying to help her up onto the sofa. She just gave me a bitter, miserable smile. "Nancy, I was waiting for you. Come try my private stash. We're getting wasted tonight." So, I had a few drinks with Sophia. It wasn't until her mom came home from work that I felt comfortable enough to leave. By the time I got home, I was still a little tipsy. I decided to take a shower to clear my head. Just as I finished blow-drying my hair, my phone vibrated, the screen lighting up. It was a text from James. "Home yet?" he asked. I replied with a yep, and then he said he was bringing my luggage over now. I glanced at the time. It was already 10 o'clock. I texted him that I could just get it tomorrow, that it was too late and he should go home and rest. He texted back, "I'm already at your door." I read the message, and a second later, the doorbell rang. I hurried to open the door. Seeing him there, I felt inexplicably shy, my cheeks growing warm. He slipped off his shoes and walked in. "Have you been drinking?" He could smell it even after my shower. "He has a good nose." "A little," I answered honestly. I put my phone on the table and took the luggage from him to put in my bedroom. There wasn't much stuff, so I finished unpacking quickly. I made him a cup of tea. I had just sat down and was about to turn on the TV when I saw him staring at the cup. He abruptly put it down, grabbed my hand, and asked anxiously, "Did you hurt your hand?" I blinked. He turned my hands over, and I saw that at some point, I had gotten a cut on my index finger. It was bleeding. The cut wasn't huge, but it wasn't tiny either. I stared at the wound, then smiled. "When did that happen?" "I didn't even feel it." "Where's the first aid kit?" After I told him, he went to get it without another word. He dabbed a cotton swab with hydrogen peroxide, took my hand again, and started cleaning the cut. I stared at my finger, the atmosphere quiet and still. My gaze slowly drifted up to his face. His eyelashes were lowered, his focus entirely on my finger. His brow furrowed slightly from time to time, and his careful movements showed he was afraid of hurting me. Suddenly, I thought, the boss is actually pretty gentle. I felt him tear open a band-aid and wrap it around my finger. An impulse took over. I leaned forward and, without thinking, planted a kiss on James's cheek. My face grew hotter and hotter. I watched him closely, but James didn't seem to react at all. He just continued to wrap the band-aid securely around my finger. No reaction. Was I too impulsive? I suddenly felt a pang of regret. I bit my lip, disappointed, and tried to find an excuse. Sorry, boss, I'm still a little drunk. Before I could finish, James suddenly lowered his head, cupped my face with his hands, and pressed his lips to mine. My eyes flew wide. I felt a tremor run through my whole body. My right hand was still hovering in the air, my mind blank. The boss. He kissed me. Everything went silent. So silent I could hear nothing but our breathing and our heartbeats, a rhythm both intimate and exhilarating. He gently nibbled my lower lip, and the kiss left me weak, my breath growing hot, my eyes moist. In a sudden move, I shifted, turning to sit on his lap. I wrapped my arms around his shoulders, my breathing becoming more rapid. Our breaths mingled, igniting a spark so intense it felt like it was burning up all the oxygen in the room. James and I were officially together. In the mornings, I now had the privilege of being chauffeured to work by the boss himself. The first thing Mia said to me when she got to work was, "Nancy, did you see the group chat?" It didn't register at first. I kept typing and asked absently, "What?" "Looks like the boss might have something going on," Mia said, her eyes sparkling. "I'm so curious what his girlfriend looks like." "She looks like me." I gloated silently, but I couldn't say that out loud. I didn't know what to say, so I just mumbled, "She's probably really pretty." "I think so too," Mia nodded in agreement. "Wait a minute." Mia suddenly leaned in close and spun my chair around to face her. "Nancy Reed, you're not acting right today. Something is very wrong." Her expression turned dead serious, giving me a "you can tell me now, or I'll drag it out of you later" look that made me feel incredibly guilty. I swallowed nervously. "No, I'm not. What's wrong with me?" "You're never this calm when you hear gossip," Mia said, her face full of suspicion. "Especially not gossip about the boss. Fess up. You know something, don't you?" "I really don't." I felt even more guilty, silently praying for Mia to stop asking. Any more questions and my cover would be blown. "What are you two whispering about?" Ben's head suddenly popped up between us. Mia and I both jumped. "Don't be so creepy." Mia clutched her chest and shot Ben a glare. Ben scratched the back of his head, looking wronged. "You guys were just so into your conversation you didn't even notice I was here." He quickly changed his expression to a cheerful one. "A new hot pot place opened up near the office. They have a 30% off deal. You guys want to go check it out?" Seeing the topic change, I quickly agreed. "Ben, you're a lifesaver." In the end, the whole team decided to go for hot pot at lunch. Not long after I'd agreed, James texted me, "What do you want for lunch?" I had to tell him that I'd already made plans to get hot pot with the team. That afternoon, we were all sitting at the restaurant chatting when Ben's gaze drifted to the door, and he shot up from his seat. "Be boss." We all turned to look. James pushed the door open, walked straight to my side, and sat down. Everyone's eyes were glued to him. The atmosphere suddenly went silent. James chuckled, a handsome curve to his lips. "Why is everyone staring at me like that? Am I not welcome?" "No, no, no," Ben said, quickly calling a waiter over for another set of utensils. "It's an honor to have you join us, Mr. Hayes." The side dishes started arriving, and we all began to eat and chat. As the hot pot bubbled, I found a moment to whisper to him, "What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you," James whispered back in my ear. Those 4 simple words sent a jolt through my heart. My face flushed red. To calm myself down, I fished a piece of beef out of the pot, dipped it in sauce, and stuffed it in my mouth. It was way spicier than I expected, and I started coughing uncontrollably. I coughed until my face was bright red. James immediately handed me a glass of water and patted my back. "Don't get so excited." That just made my face turn an even deeper shade of red. I took a gulp of water and shot back, "I'm not excited." The words were barely out of my mouth when I froze. Wait. Why did it suddenly get so quiet? I looked up and saw everyone staring at us, their eyes wide. Ben's mouth was hanging open in a perfect O. James's hand was still on my back. "You too," Mia said, her voice full of disbelief. "What is going on?" Ben pulled out his phone, looked at the picture from yesterday, and then walked behind me, as if making a monumental discovery. I knew that silhouette looked familiar. It was Nancy's. Oops. The secret was out. James and I couldn't stand up to their interrogation, and before long, we confessed everything. After hearing the story, Mia had a moment of revelation. That explains it. No wonder Nancy wasn't curious about the gossip this time. She was the star of the show. "You've been holding out on us," Mia said, nudging me with her elbow. I just laughed sheepishly. "Next time, I promise." Now it was James's turn to be displeased. He raised an eyebrow. "You want there to be a next time?" I realized what I'd said and quickly shook my head. That weekend, my mom told me to bring James home. "Why did you buy so much?" I asked, looking at the several bags in his hands and rifling through them. They were all from high-end brands. A bottle of Macallan and designer skincare, this must have cost a fortune. "This is nothing." James put the bags in the trunk and then gently stroked my hair. "When it comes to gifts for our parents, money is no object." His words sent a warm feeling through me. It felt like a dream. I stood on my tiptoes and gave him a quick kiss on the cheek. As we reached the entrance to my family's apartment complex, we were immediately spotted by the eagle-eyed aunties in the courtyard. "Nancy, this must be your boyfriend, right?" I instinctively linked my arm with James's and nodded. "We've been hearing your mom praise him to the skies, saying how tall and handsome he is." At first, we didn't believe anyone could be that perfect. But now that we see him, he really is a fine young man. A great catch. We've all watched Nancy grow up. You'd better treat her right. James smiled. Of course. Just as James finished speaking, my mom came out wearing an apron, her head held high with pride. "My son-in-law is here. Come on, get inside." So biased. She was so obviously biased. James's presence had made my mom unbearably smug. Her eyes were all for him. She seemed to have forgotten I was her actual daughter. Luckily, my dad still remembered me. I had barely sat down before my mom dragged me into the kitchen to wash vegetables. I could faintly hear my dad asking James to play a game of chess with him. The two of them talked the whole time, but the noise from the kitchen was too loud for me to hear what they were saying. It wasn't until we were back in the car that I finally had a chance to ask him, "What did you and my dad talk about all afternoon?" "We talked about you," he replied. "About me?" That piqued my interest. "What about me?" James leaned over to fasten my seatbelt, his voice incredibly gentle. He asked when I started liking you, and what I like about you. He said you're his only little girl, and that I have to treat you well. My eyes lit up. "So, when did you start liking me?" James's lips curved into a smile. "Guess." I shook my head. "I can't. To be honest, I can't pinpoint the exact moment either. It just started last year. Your face would pop into my head from time to time. Seeing you would make my day better. I just always wanted to see you." My eyes curved into crescents as I smiled. "So what do you like about me?" James laughed. "I like that you're a dork." All the tender emotion he had just built up vanished. I let out a little huff, pouted, and turned to look out the window. But he reached out, gently turned my face back toward him, and his expression grew serious. "I like everything about you." At that, my heart began to race. He leaned in, his lips meeting mine, deepening the kiss bit by bit. "Because I love you." James's POV. Nancy joined the company not long after it was founded. The first time I saw her, she was wearing a blue dress, her hair in a single braid over her shoulder. She carried herself with a graceful, dignified air that left a deep impression on me. At first, I thought she was a very quiet and gentle girl, but after she started working here, she turned out to be the life of the party. After we got together, I told her about this, and she just giggled. That was all an act. If I hadn't seemed poised and proper, I was afraid you wouldn't have hired me. She was well educated and talented. She could have easily gone to a better company. When I asked her why she chose ours, she just smiled and said, "When the company gets big, I can say I was one of the originals. And besides, I want to grow with the company." Her words stuck with me. Whenever I'd look up from my desk and catch a glimpse of her, her words would echo in my mind. And then I'd find myself smiling. She loves to laugh. When she does, her eyes crinkle up and seem to sparkle. She's the one who brings most of the energy to the office. When she's around, it's like no one ever feels tired. When the company faced difficulties, she would quietly observe everyone's mood. She always seemed to notice when I was feeling down. She'd pat my shoulder and say in a wise tone, "Listen, James, it's not a big deal. Cheer up. There are always more solutions than problems." She sounded more like my boss than I did. But she always knew where the line was and what was appropriate. Without realizing it, I found that whenever I saw Nancy, a smile would appear on my face. And without realizing it, I discovered I had fallen for her. My mom had been nagging me to find a girlfriend, but I never expected she'd be so desperate as to put my profile up at a matchmaking event. It wasn't until Nancy sent me the photo that I found out. When I zoomed in, I saw a very familiar name in the corner of the picture. I had to laugh. She hadn't even noticed she was on display too. I asked her to take my profile down, but I never imagined she would pretend to be my ex-girlfriend. When my mom found out, she demanded I bring her home to meet. Suddenly, I realized this could be a great opportunity. I decided to use the situation to my advantage and ask her to pretend to be my girlfriend. I hoped that with some time together, she might start to like me back. As I happened to pass by her desk, I overheard her mom also pressuring her to find a boyfriend. I suddenly felt like this was going to be easy. She would agree to be my fake girlfriend, and I would agree to be her fake boyfriend. It was a win-win. She had to say yes. And she did. She's incredibly charming. She and my mom hit it off right away. My mom told me how much she liked Nancy and that I had to treat her well. I thought, of course I will. I never expected we'd run into Nancy's mom while shopping at the supermarket. When her mother heard I was her boyfriend, she was overjoyed. As my mom and Nancy's mom were discussing wedding plans, I found myself listening, captivated. I thought, I can't let all their effort go to waste. Nancy was afraid I would misunderstand her. When she got back, she rushed to explain that meeting her mother was just a coincidence and that she would clear things up with her. I couldn't hold back. I pulled a chair over and sat in front of her. "Nancy Reed, I think being in a relationship wouldn't be so bad." She was stunned. Her dumbfounded look was adorable. I knew I couldn't rush things. All I had to do was be even better to her. When I brought her luggage over, I discovered she'd cut her hand. An instinctive pang of protectiveness hit me, and I wanted to take care of it. But then, she suddenly kissed me. I knew then. She was saying yes. I suppressed my excitement and the smile that was fighting to break free until after I had treated her wound. Then, I couldn't hold back any longer. I cupped her face and kissed her. In that moment, I made a vow. I love her. For the rest of my life, I only want to love her. And then, with her, I want to get married, have children, and grow old together.